Welcome back to another episode of Have Game Will Travel. I'm your host, Bennett Newsome, also known as Damn It Bennett out in the gaming community. If you know, I'm the director of esports growth and development here at Full Sail University, and I'm super passionate about exploring the diverse world of esports and gaming beyond just skill levels. So whether you're a first-time listener or a returning fan, we're thrilled to have you here join us on this virtual journey through the experience of industry professionals. So get ready to engage with our guests and learn from their perspectives. But remember, you can ask questions in chat and we'll get them featured here on the show. But sit back, enjoy the ride as we kick off another episode of Have Game Will Travel with my good friend Lynzie. Welcome to the show, Lynzie. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing good.
Excellent. Well, I'm so glad that you're here. Obviously, you've had a busy day. You had a taco party on campus today. Yeah, I learned these things backstage, so it's very important. A big, busy
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, we did a taco bar at an event on campus, and then we did media day. So very busy day.
I love that. I love that. Well, can you go ahead and just introduce yourself to the audience here? Let them know what you do and just kind of a brief intro.
Yeah, absolutely. As Bennett said, my name is Lindsay. I'm the Assistant Director of Esports and Partnerships here at Harrisburg University in Central Pennsylvania. We're about 2 hours outside of Philly, so if you're not familiar with PA, that's where we're at. But yeah, I've worked at Harrisburg since July of 2023. I graduated from Harrisburg with a degree in esports management, and they let me leave for about a month, and then they were like, "Actually, wait, get back here,"
Yeah.
and they hired me on full time.
I love that. They're like, "Yep, actually, we're gonna need to come on and back."
Yeah.
That's awesome. What got you started in esports? What was that spark that really kind of ignited it
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah, so growing up, I've done a lot of reflection on this because I was like, how did I end up here? Because you kind of think about it, and a lot of things aligned, and I got really lucky. But then also looking back, my dad was a video game collector, and also just games in general, so
Right.
board games, video games, everything. So just kind of reflecting, it made sense that I would end up working in games at some point. I grew up playing Halo. Really anything that my older sister played, I wanted to play.
Yeah.
So I got really good at Halo Reach. And then Overwatch is actually what got me into esports. So I went to the first finals, the inaugural finals up in New York. And that just kind of changed everything for me because it really put into perspective how big esports could be. And it was an ecosystem that I wanted to get into and to help preserve for the long run.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I feel like going to an event is such like a cultivating moment for a lot of people. You see it and you're like, "Whoa, what
Yeah,
what is this? Like this is cool. I want to be part of it." And that obviously that's what drew
exactly.
you in. So did that were you in college when you went to this event? Were you still in high school? How where were you on your journey?
Yeah. So during this time, this was I think 2018. So I was actually in a gap year. I graduated high school in 2017 and thought I was going to go to school for architecture.
Okay.
I actually went and got a computer aided drafting certificate and hated it halfway through the program, but stuck through it. Graduated valedictorian of that program, and then I was like, "All right, I'm going to take some time." Really figure out what it is I want to do for the next however many years I have to work, and really just kind of set my mind to figuring out what it is I wanted to do. So I took the time off. I actually worked as a barista for about 2 years. And that's kind of where I got the time to really focus on gaming. Just kind of fell into esports
Yeah.
one day through a Twitter post of the Overwatch League. And that's just kind of where things started and really kind of set me on this path.
I like that. Sari says the casual valedictorian drop, like,
Yeah,
okay,
you
okay.
know.
No big deal. No big deal here. I like that. So, okay. So you kind of went through that and what drew you to esports management versus any of the other
Mm.
avenues that you could go, kind of go into?
Yeah, I just knew esports was really where I wanted to focus, and I felt that I would be a really good generalist. So in esports, we hear a lot about the arguments of generalists versus specialists,
Right.
and I wanted to be someone who could do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So I felt like the esports degree program here really was able to set me up to do that. So I learned how to do streaming. I know the basics of OBS and Streamlabs. I learned the basics of social media and just kind of everything to be able to dabble into a whole bunch of different areas where I could see a post or I could see a project and be like, oh, actually, I do have the skills to do that. And I did actually start here as a different major. I came in as an interactive media major,
Okay.
but that's because the esports management program hadn't been created. So we were actually the first class in 23 to graduate. So shout out to my friends in that class, especially
Yeah.
Peter Silva. We were the first class that went through it, and you know, I think having something that really focused on esports but still allowed me to be a generalist was really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And it gives you a wide breadth of opportunity, I think, as well, because, in this space, having a hat for almost every occasion is very important. And to be able to not only attach your degree to that brings a lot to the table. You've had a really fun journey since then. Obviously,
Yeah.
you had an internship with Evil Genius. And the Genius League. Talk about that a little bit. I would love to understand what that was and kind of what you went through there.
Yeah. So that was actually my fourth internship as an undergrad. I definitely tell students that I talk to here, don't do four internships. It seems cool, but it is a lot of work. I didn't do four at one time, I will say that, but I did
Yeah.
do four, pretty much one every year. So the Evil Geniuses one was kind of the capstone internship that I had. So I had gone through three others before that. One, I actually worked with the Storm as a graphic design intern, and then I had worked with a local nonprofit, working on a girls in gaming program for them. And then I worked with Sponsor United doing sponsorship scouting, which really I think is what kind of led me into the internship with Evil Geniuses, because it was a partnerships intern and the sponsorship scouting
Yeah.
was scouting brands and properties and all of the sponsorships that they do. So it really tied into it. And, I got really lucky. I know that there were probably thousands of
Yeah.
applicants for that. And it was just a small team of us on the Genius League as interns. And it was an incredible experience. I got to go out to Seattle for a little bit, which was really fun. And I learned a lot in that internship, especially about the professional space when it comes to esports.
Yeah, and that's huge. And obviously, that there's a lot of crossover with that last internship that you did with what you're doing now.
Mhm.
As the assistant director of esports and partnerships at Harrisburg. Talk to me a little bit about what your role is and kind of what a day looks like in your shoes.
Yeah, definitely. So I kind of have two roles, the assistant director of esports and then the and partnership side. So they actually created this role before I graduated, and they saw what I was doing as a partnerships intern and said, hey, we want to take what you're learning as an intern and what you're doing in partnerships and have you apply it here in this new role. So I was really fortunate that they created this role and allowed me to kind of set a path forward with it. And it definitely kind of changes day to day. So some days I focus a lot more on administrative duties and helping out with the teams that we have here, and getting them running. And then also there's other times where I'm working on partnerships and writing up partnership briefs or tracking down all of the metrics and reporting things from our events like the Hue Invitational.
Absolutely, and I feel like it's got to feel good to know that the school saw the potential, right? They
Yes.
saw in you something that they needed, and hey, we're gonna create this position for you because this is an add on to what we're already doing, right? What did that feel like for you as I'm assuming you were still a student at this time, and then
Yeah.
alumni.
Yeah, so I was a student when I got pulled into the university's president's office. I just had a meeting pop up on my calendar, and I was like, what is this? Terrified undergrad student being pulled into the office. But they sat down and they were like, no, this is a great thing.
Yeah.
We really see a lot of potential in you, and they really value their alumni here. There's a whole bunch of us that have graduated from Harrisburg that still work with the university, and I think one of the members, or one of the alumni, he just celebrated 5 years of working with the university, if not more. So it's a really great feeling to know that we're valued for our experience of knowing the university, but also the skill set that we bring.
That's huge. And you talked briefly about it, but Hugh Fest or the Hugh Invitational, obviously that's a huge event for you guys at Harrisburg. It's something that I've been hearing about for a very long time. I have yet to attend. We're gonna hopefully change that one day. But
Yeah.
really, especially early on, you guys were really setting the stage, and I would love to learn about not only the background behind the Hugh Invitational, but more so about what you're doing for planning and execution of that event, because putting these events on, these large scale events are not easy, and what it
Yeah.
meant to you as a student and now as a staff member.
Yeah, definitely. So the Hue Invitational actually formed after Hugh Fest.
Yeah,
So a lot of people will still call it Hugh Fest,
I
which is
did. I'm
totally fine.
guilty.
Yeah, no, you're good. But Hugh Fest was actually when they shut down some of the streets here in Harrisburg and actually had a big street festival and music performances. But we kind of focused a lot more on the esports tournament side of it and changed it into the Hugh Invitational. And it's been that since I think the second iteration in 2019,
Yeah.
and it's also become student run. So after 2022, they decided to kind of turn everything in-house and turn it into an experiential opportunity experience, or learning experience essentially for the students to, take what they're learning in the classroom and gain hands-on experience that they can take with them in the industry after they graduate. So, as students, we had the opportunity previously to kind of work on it, but then in 2023 was really the first year when the students really got the reins and really took the lead and did an exceptional job. I can't say too much yet on what we're
Oh,
working on
okay.
for you this year.
Okay.
We're
Okay.
still ironing out some details, but I'm really excited.
That's awesome, and I love that you guys are doing that, because I think it's such an important piece of a student's journey, is actually getting their hands dirty and taking an event like that and bringing it to life. So that's a huge win for your students, and I'm sure they're very excited. So we'll have to stay posted to see what comes of it this year. But let's kind of transition into the partnership side of things. Obviously, you have this internship where you're working for a major org, one of the largest esports orgs in the game, and now transitioning to what you're doing and building partnerships for your university. What sort of things are you trying to tackle? When it comes to the partnership side of things.
Yeah, one of the big things that we're focusing on right now is community, making sure that, what we're fostering here is not just about one team, it's about a whole community on campus. So we're bringing in junior varsity teams and really making it into something that I think attracts a lot more partners, where we have this larger community on campus that they can reach a ton more students with. And we really want to focus on things that our students can also get value from.
Yeah.
So, whether it's a food sponsor, like we've worked with our local tropical smoothie franchise, and they bring meals over when we say, "Hey, we have an event coming up for the team. We'd love to get some lunch for them." And they'll be like, "Okay, how many wraps and smoothies do you want?" And it's really great, and we just send photos of the team together eating their lunch then, and it's awesome. So, really it's how do we benefit the students and how
Yeah.
do we make sure that we're fostering the community on campus?
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned now JV teams. Is that a new addition to
Yes.
Harrisburg? You've only had varsity prior to this.
Yeah, so we just added actually junior varsity back in the fall. We did a test case with a Rocket League team and they
Awesome.
did great. It was awesome. And then we expanded into more titles this spring. So we currently have junior varsity Overwatch, Valorant, League of Legends, and Super Smash Brothers. And they've all done fantastic. They actually just, as I mentioned, did their media day today.
Yeah.
So it's super fun to see more students getting involved and getting to work with the Storm and represent the university.
I love that. What's that pathway for those students? Is
Mhm.
it play on the JV team until we're at a point where we need someone's graduated and we've gone in, or is there opportunity for them to excel into the varsity program?
Yeah, absolutely. We really want it to be a space where, anybody can come in and compete in any title they want. But if they're really putting in the time, really getting their skill level up and showing that they are dedicated to the program, there's definitely a pathway into the varsity program. We haven't seen it quite yet since we just started, but I would love to see that pipeline really get established as we move through the years.
Yeah, that'll be exciting to watch. I mean, I think there's been a lot of teams and universities in the space that have had JV teams, then removed them, and now you see some going back to it and trying to create more of that pipeline internally, for their varsity teams. So that would be really exciting to see what you guys do. You also have done and worked for the Aurora series, right? I
Yeah.
would love to talk more about that, and not only your experience, but also working as the partnership manager for the Aurora series.
Definitely. I got reached actually I met up with Cora at a LAN And we got to talking about it, and I was super excited to hear about the Aurora series during their first year. And we kind of talked online on Discord, and she was like, "Hey, I have this opportunity. I'm looking for a partnerships manager. Are you interested?" And I was like, "You know what? Yeah, let's do this." And they were amazing. I learned so much with them. Really seeing how a marginalized gender league runs and
Yeah.
how it's so different from events and other tournaments. It was inspirational. Gosh, my words. It was so inspirational, and it was a great experience.
That's awesome. Yeah, and obviously, they've continued to move forward with the Aurora series, which is great. And are you still currently working with them as a partnership manager, or have you kind of gone in a
No.
different direction?
Yeah, I actually stepped down. I had definitely taken on too much across a few different areas. So I kind of had to pare back a few
Yeah.
things. And unfortunately, the Aurora series was one of those areas.
Definitely, and obviously having a lot on your plate is kind of par for the course. 4 internships during your undergrad, also a lot of other things. So that makes sense for sure. You were also nominated for a Gamers Award for Esports Excellence Award. Talk to me about what that kind of recognition means. I mean, obviously going through this industry. Sometimes you don't hear that you're doing a great job, but then you get nominated for something like this. I would love to know your feelings there.
Yeah, definitely. So I think this is my fourth time being nominated for the Gamers. So it's just incredible to be recognized amongst, a whole bunch of women in this space and really being able to kind of see that, I am making an impact because sometimes when you're doing the work and you're going along, you're like, Am I really doing the right thing? Am I going in the right direction?" And being recognized in these types of awards and these types of areas is so great because it really kind of, I don't want to say validates, but I guess it does kind of validate that,
Yeah,
I'm doing the right work and I'm on the right path.
absolutely. And so, that I think that validation goes a long way. I mean, especially when you're working hard and sometimes your head's down, you're just trying to move forward, benefit your students. And sometimes getting that pat on the back is always a good motivator, right? Keeps you
Definitely.
going.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as yourself, when it comes to competitive side of esports, obviously Overwatch was something that got you really into the space. Talk to me a little bit about the balance between competitive, academic, and the community in college at esports for you at Harrisburg.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we have a really good balance. We have weekly schedules for practices that our students pretty much stick to. I would say the varsity team, they're of course practicing the most. They have about 12 hours that they practice each week. And then our junior varsity teams, they're usually around 10 hours, if not a little bit less. And that also includes competition as well. So, we're really trying to make sure that we're focusing on the student part of student athlete
Yep.
and really making sure that they're getting their homework done. We do weekly grade and why can't I think of the word attendance? There it is, attendance checks to make sure that they're going to classes because if you're going to be in college, you of course have to show up. You have to go to your classes. So we want to make sure that our student athletes are really being the best in the game, but also out of the game as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about out of the game, obviously there's the philanthropy side of things. You've been and participated in Extra Life. What got you interested in Extra Life?
Yeah, we actually had a student. His name was Zach. He was really interested in working with a charity back for one of the events that we were going to run, and it just didn't pan out at the time, but we got working with them a little bit more, building the relationship, and we were able to host their national game day last November on our campus. And it was a really great opportunity to work with our local guild over in the Hershey Harrisburg area, but then also just to build a relationship for our students to really see that you can game for good and
Yeah.
take what you're doing while you're having fun gaming, but really apply it to something else that's bigger than you.
Yeah, and you guys raised over $27,000 for
Oh, they
Extra
that
Life.
was that was all the Harrisburg Hershey Guild. We were just a small part of it for sure.
Well, collectively, that's a win for everybody. I think anytime
Absolutely.
that you go out and you try to do good, it's a huge thing for not only yourself but your community. We do have our first question from chat. It comes from Jacob as Nachos. He says, "What are some examples of partnerships that could really benefit collegiate esports communities?"
Ooh, that's a great question. I definitely see a lot more, at least for our campus. So, an interesting thing about Harrisburg, we're in a food desert, and we really want to make sure that our students are eating healthy foods and having access to those fresh foods. So, we're definitely, of course, looking at, those meal plans, anything that really gets our students eating healthy and making sure that they have access to good food. So, we've looked at partners like Factor, HelloFresh, those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's one of the big ones. Of course, anything that gets them out of, I don't want to say the basement, but out of their dorms,
Right.
and make sure that they're out there moving.
Yeah.
A lot of them go to the YMCA. The university has a great relationship and partnership with the YMCA that we have here downtown. And a lot of our students go there consistently. I think they have, at least the Valorant team, they have a 9 a.m. mandatory gym morning with the coach at the YMCA
I
on
like that.
Saturdays.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so doing those types of kind of partnerships really help when it comes to keeping the kids in shape and healthy. What other sort of partnerships have you done in your time here?
Yeah, I've been really fortunate to do some pretty exciting ones. So one of the ones that we've been consistently fostering over the last few years is our relationship and partnership with the Pennsylvania Scholastic Esports Leagues, or PSEL.
Yeah.
They do high school and middle school tournaments across the state of Pennsylvania, and we've hosted their finals here on campus for the last, I want to say, 3 or 4 semesters, if not more. And it's just been a great relationship having them on campus, but then also going to events with them and really seeing how the scholastic space in the state has grown and how we can continue to impact it as we go forward through our programs. The other one I will say, one of my favorites has been with Zenny Gaming. They were a partner that we got last year for the Hue Invitational, and one of my absolute favorite brands to work with, but also just one of the most fun things that I think we could do. They worked with us to create co-branded giveaway bags that we were able to give to all of the attendees at the event that had non-prescription branded with the Hue Invitational
Yeah.
logo, blue light blocking glasses, and then 2 soft cases, a hard case, I think 2 cleaning cloths, and then it all
Oh
came
wow.
in this really nice pouch.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So that was all of the players that came to participate
Yep.
in the Hue Invitational. Very cool. I like that. You talked about going abroad as well, and a lot of these other internships. But this one's a little bit different because this wasn't necessarily an internship. This was the Genji Practicum abroad. First off, tell us about what that is and kind of your experience on that.
Yeah, I mean, the practicum abroad was almost, I would say, life changing for me. So I love to travel. I've gone abroad a couple times since I was in high school, but I was able to go to South Korea with the practicum. And essentially, if you're not familiar with the practicum, because I wasn't at first, it's basically an applied research or applied study. So you're doing work with study. So we were studying esports. We were learning about the esports industry and professional space in South Korea, and it was just such an incredible experience to be part of the recent graduates cohort. I've since technically graduated out of the recent graduates since I graduated in 2023, but it's still just such a great community to be able to see, and I'm excited for the forward coming practicum cohorts to be able to experience it as well.
Yeah. So what was like a day like that, and how long was this for?
Yeah, absolutely. So the practicum was 3 weeks, and we really left right after the start of the new year.
Okay.
So we basically got into 2025, and suddenly I'm in South Korea.
Yeah.
And it was super exciting to be there for the 3 weeks. So we had the weekends all to ourselves. But then during the week for 4 days, we were in the Genji HQ in Seoul, which was amazing. You could see all of the Genji branding on the outside, and we got to work in some of the office spaces. And then on 2 of the Fridays and 1 of the Wednesdays, they took us on some culture trips. So we got to go out and see some of the sights of Seoul, really experience what South Korea was like. But then also during those work days, we were really getting an experience into professional esports in South Korea, but also South Korean, I would say, office culture, because they provided us lunch every day while we were in the office, which was really cool. So we had a cafeteria style lunch, which, if you're not familiar with South Korean cafeteria lunches, a lot of times you'll see like Instagram reels or TikToks
Yeah.
of those, and it's so good. It was like always a rice, a protein, a vegetable, some type of side dish, and a soup. And it was It was so good. I think about those lunches all the time still, as you can tell. I took photos every day of my lunch,
That's awesome.
um, just so I could relive it, but it was really incredible to take my love for esports abroad because that wasn't something I had done yet. You know, I've traveled domestically, with esports, but really seeing that esports could take me somewhere outside of the US and really to a place I never thought I would get to go to was just really mind-blowing and really something that I think changed my perspective in esports.
Yeah, what was your favorite part besides the cafeteria of the Gen G HQ?
Yeah, gosh. I mean, I would say there's this giant plush of Genrong that's in the Genji offices, and when I say giant, I mean, like, his head is huge, and he's just sits in the office all day, so I have this point 0.5 photo that I took of him, and it was just always fun to be in the office and seeing this giant Genrong, and you're like, "Oh, yeah, I am in Genji. This is incredible."
Yeah, that's gotta feel a really good, and I think there's been moments throughout your journey that have been like one up in each other almost with these different internships and then these opportunities that presented themselves to you. What has that been like for you as you're going through this journey? You're building a name for yourself and you're having these opportunities. Have you spent any time to try to reflect on some of the things that you've been able to do?
Yeah, I think the moment that it really hit me where I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've come so far in esports," was we were in, I think, Boise for the NACE finals in 2023, and I was just in my hotel room and I was like, "Wow, I'm in Idaho. This is a state I never thought I would travel to." I was like, maybe I'd come out here with my family,
Yeah.
maybe on vacation or something, but I'm out here with esports in Boise." And I walked, like, to the Trader Joe's there to get some food and some snacks for the plane, and I was like, this is esports for me. It's just
Oh,
become such a normal part of my life and really my community and where I've grown over the last, gosh, 6 years? Yeah, 2018, 6 years.
yeah.
7 years. 7 years. That's 7 years. And just really, again, just become part of who I am, and that's, I would say, when it hit me, and then again in South Korea being, like, in my hotel room laying in my bed, and I'm like, "I'm in South Korea. This is mind-blowing."
Yeah, it definitely very cool. I mean, going to uh, events and I have not left the country to go for esports yet, but congratulations
You'll
on
get there.
that.
You'll get there.
But you know, it really is mind blowing. You get to this and you think about it. You know, for me, one of the ones was E3 before it fell apart after COVID. It was the 2019 was the last one, and I went and got, you know, was just there and be like, I can't believe I'm here. This is, I've thought
Mhm.
about this place and going to this since I was a kid, and to finally be here and see it and be in person was such a really cool experience. So I'm really glad that you're having that, and you're taking the time to reflect, because sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the jobs and all of the things and forget why you're doing it, which really kind of transitions into the next kind of topic that I wanted to talk about, which was like mentorship. Obviously,
Mm.
we are both in the education realm, in the collegiate space, so you have a lot of students that are looking for guidance, and how do you kind of approach that as a director in supporting you know, not only the leadership that you're trying to provide, but also for the future generation of students that are going and graduating and going out into the world? How do you really approach mentorship, you know, at Harrisburg?
Yeah. Mentorship is still a little bit kind of foreign to me because I still feel like I'm not someone who's qualified to be a mentor. And I know that's not the right way to think. But I definitely see myself in a mentorship position as I'm working with our student intern.
Yeah.
So we have a student intern who's broadcasting all of our matches, all the stuff on our Twitch.
Okay.
He's
Yep.
phenomenal, and so I get to work with him weekly and really kind of be like, okay, well, what if we change this? And really kind of help him through his internship as he's working with us. But then another thing too is, when people reach out to me with questions or if they want me to review their resume, I, of course, will take a look at it and really provide them feedback with it and say, actually, you're selling yourself a little short
Yeah.
here. Let's add some more to it. So I really want to be the person that helps kind of lift those up around me and show them that, you are doing a lot, you are having a huge impact. Let's make sure that it's known and that your skills are celebrated.
Absolutely. I just want to take a little shout out for Big Cheese with the raid, former guest of the show. I appreciate the raid, man. Thank you so much. Obviously, with what we're doing in this space, um, wearing a lot of different hats can get kind of busy. What is for you the most rewarding part of your job at Harrisburg?
Mm. Good question. I would definitely say the most rewarding part is when we have students that graduate, whether it's from the esports management program or from the storm, and they'll still reach back out and say, "Hey, I have a question," or "Hey, can you help me with this?" And just knowing that I'm someone that can be a resource for them, or can even be someone that can be a contact for them. So I always want to make sure that either students who aren't at Harrisburg anymore or
Yeah.
have graduated know that you can still come to me, you can still reach out if you need help with anything. I think that's really rewarding. And then also, of course, seeing the students when they compete and seeing when they're super happy with their results. Of course, sometimes results aren't what they always want, whether they have a bad game or they have a bad match. But knowing that, you can still lift them up and say, "Hey, congrats on the win last week," or "Hey, it's okay, you guys will get them on the next
Yeah.
one," and just being someone who, they can lean on or they can look forward to like really celebrate their wins is super rewarding. And then another example of that is, of course, today with Media Day, we had our students in jerseys, and they were just super excited to be able to have their jerseys on it and represent the university. That was super rewarding
Yeah.
to see.
That's awesome. And I love that you said that about students coming back, like, or alumni coming back. And I think that for the most part, and I guess this is a little bit of a blanket statement for the collegiate space, but most directors would be very excited to hear from the alumni. So if you're out there listening and watching, reach back out, let them check in with them, let them know
Yeah.
what you're doing, how things are going. You never know; they may have an opportunity that they can plug you into. So those are always really important things, and to have that be a big part of the reward for you is talking to the students is huge. I think this has been a common question on the show because of how fast things transition in our
Mm.
space. What is your kind of like plan as far as how to keep up with everything that's going on in the collegiate space, specifically with the idea of partnerships,
Yeah.
in the collegiate space?
Gosh, that's a big question, but
Yeah.
it's a good one. I think the plan is definitely to stay informed and stay connected, but then also making sure that I'm still talking with those around me. So of course, Sari is an awesome resource, and I'll reach out to her when I have an idea or if I'm stuck on something, and I say, "Hey, I need some help," or "Hey, can you just listen to this idea I have?" So having those connections and having those resources amongst those of us that are in the space are super important because those also lead to partnerships, and those also lead to opportunities because maybe a partnership might not work out at one university, but you can always keep your peers in mind where it's like, "Hey, actually this didn't work out for us, but maybe this will be good for you." Or if you see someone who has a partner and you reach out and say, "Hey, congratulations, this is an awesome partnership," and maybe down the line that's a brand that one day you're able to work with.
Yeah.
So I definitely see those relationships and those, let's say, positive interactions is kind of where things are going, and definitely the way to kind of keep those partnerships in the space fostered.
Yeah, definitely. Like I like that answer. Like staying plugged into your network is such an important part of
Mhm.
of what you're doing, and not just focusing on the trends and what's changing and how it's moving, but also talking and continuing the relationships that you have, which is really important. So
Mhm.
that's great. We're also big fans of Sari, so
Yes.
that's always a win for us here. We got another question from chat here from Queen of NACL. She says, for someone else who started their esports journey in Overwatch, how did you pursue familiarizing yourself with other titles that Harrisburg supports? And what do you recommend someone else do to help diversify their knowledge? Great question from Anissa.
Yeah. Definitely. So I came to HU specifically knowing Overwatch.
Yeah.
I didn't know League of Legends. At the time, we had Hearthstone. I didn't know Hearthstone, but Overwatch was the one that I knew. And it's actually really funny because I actually fell off from Overwatch after I started. I The main reason being is I actually started playing on console, so I was a big console Overwatch player, and
Right.
then when I came to college, I tried to make the switch to PC, and it did not go well, and I felt very defeated. So I was like, "You know what? Let me focus on the games that I enjoy. Let me learn mouse and keyboard especially, and really kind of figure out what other game titles I wanna know." And I remember distinctly as I was going through some of my esports classes, realizing I should probably learn a little bit more about League of Legends than the little bit that I know. So I actually sat down and I learned how to play League. So I think that's one of the biggest things was, play the game,
Yeah.
really get in there, really try your hand at it, even if you're not good, because I'm terrible at League. And I think still just kind of learning the basics of it and really learning how to do all of the keys and how to you know, what champions do you play? Like, that was a
Yeah.
big thing for me, especially, just learning something new. I think I was the same way for Valorant. So I didn't play CS:GO. Really the only FPS games I had played before then were a little bit of Call of Duty, Halo, and Overwatch.
Right.
So I kind of went in with my skill set from Overwatch way back when,
Yeah.
as I say, it was 2 years prior, but way back when, and really it was like, "Okay, so this is like this character. Oh, I kind of know how this works. And really applying what you know previously from other games and seeing how you can tie it into the new skills or
Yeah.
the new mechanics is definitely something that really helped me.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, getting your hands in there and just playing, I think is a great way to do it. And I'm also terrible at League, so I feel comfort in that.
I know how to follow the game now, though. That's the important thing.
That is important. It means a lot more when you understand what you're looking at, right?
Yeah.
So we get a lot of students that have questions about what to do next, and a lot of times, at Full Sail, we really try to focus on that. There's so much more to esports than just competitive, and being good at the game. So we really try to put students in roles and opportunities in more of the non-player roles. So what advice do you have for students that are maybe seeking those types of experiences at Harrisburg? What kind of information do you share with them?
Yeah, so we traditionally had only really offered a couple internships each semester for students to get experience in house, but we also tell students, go outside, go see where else you can find
Yeah.
internships or opportunities outside of here because our students are required to do some type of internship to graduate. So we always want to make sure that they're getting hands-on experience, but they're also getting those credit hours. So we're able to create those internships if they need us to, but one of the things that we've really noticed is we do have a lot of students who are interested in esports, but they don't necessarily want to do the competitive side.
Right.
Like I was someone who I had not the skill nor the time really to be a competitor, but I still wanted to work on the industry in the back end. So we've actually started developing a program to really get students hands-on experience and more opportunities. So we just call it basically the Storm Student Program where students can come in, they can work on projects that they're interested in, they can work on stuff that we're working on, but really we want them to get the experience in the areas that they want to get experience in and really help them build their skill sets that, they may not be able to do elsewhere, or if they can't find an internship, we can help them with that.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, that gives them an opportunity to not only see what you're doing, but also build their own, right? Like you're working on
Mhm.
different projects. And I assume that would be like student events or like lands
Yeah.
or things like that. Okay, cool. Very
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely. Content, if they want to stream,
Yeah.
we can get them set up with assets to represent us on their streams. Really, it's whatever their interest is in, we'll happily support it.
That's awesome. As far as yourself in this role now, which you've been, how long have you been in this role at Harrisburg?
Coming up on 2 years in July.
What has been your kind of proudest accomplishment, and why?
That's a good question. I definitely feel like the Zenny partnership is one of my
Yeah.
proudest accomplishments just because it really kind of showed how I was able to develop a partnership actually rather than just on paper and really went from identifying them and doing outreach and then actually executing it and then reporting back. I think that was one of my proudest moments because I was like, oh, I actually can do this partnership thing. I can actually do this, and really was kind of an aha moment that really showed that I am doing the right thing. I'm able to do what I talk about doing, and sometimes I may have that little bit of imposter syndrome where, oh, what am I doing? I don't feel like I deserve this role, or I don't feel like I'm, making the impact I should. And those types of things and those types of moments, like with the Zenny partnership, are definitely things that make me really feel like I'm doing good.
Yeah, the imposter syndrome is obviously something I think that everybody always, I mean, with the common topic on this show alone, but in general, just in this space, everybody feels
Hmm.
like there's this other thing that you've got to hit, and that it's this
Yeah.
this thing. So I'm interested for you on is it this partnership that has been the thing that gets you out of that headspace and into a new, or are there other things that you do when you start to feel that coming on, because it's not a great feeling.
Hmm.
I would love to kind of learn about how you get into like the right headspace, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, when I kind of get into like an imposter syndrome kind of type area, I really look at how far I've come. So sometimes when I'm like scrolling through LinkedIn, I'm like, oh, I should like see what's on my profile. I haven't looked at it in a while, and then I'll look on and I'm like, oh, I did do all of those things, and
Yeah.
it's really kind of the reflection of, oh wait, I have come so far. I have actually done a lot of things, and I should be proud of that and know that all of these skills and all of these opportunities I had led me to where I am today. And all of these things that I'm doing now are going to keep leading me on to where I'll go next.
Yeah.
And I do deserve this and I am good at what I do.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's good. I'm glad that you have those things, because it is tough sometimes to get in that kind of negative space and drowned in it. Like you want to
Yeah.
find the right way out, and the positive ways out. Obviously, from your perspective, when it comes to partnerships and things like that, how do you measure success? Obviously, we talked
Mm.
about some of your successful partnerships, and big and small. Like I think there's obviously a range there for you internally. How do you measure that?
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely say it varies from partner to partner, just because the goals we'll set will be different amongst who we work with. So, for some people, it might just be we want X amount of people at this event, or we
Right.
want X amount of impressions on here. But for me, I feel like I definitely want to make sure that I'm hitting all of those goals and more. So I want to make sure that I'm over delivering on what I actually promised. So whether it's adding an extra shout out on the Twitch, or
Right.
adding an extra segment that, we didn't necessarily initially put in there, but it was still a value added for them. I always want to make sure that I'm going above and beyond. And to me, that's the successful metric of, we hit all of the things that we wanted to hit before, but we also went a little bit further.
I have a lot of students that are interested in the partnership side of things. What are some of the kind of common misconceptions, specifically about collegiate esports partnerships, that you would like to debunk here?
Yeah. One of my favorite things to talk about with partnerships, and when I talk about partnerships to people, is a lot of times you see it as business to business relationships. But I think in partnerships in general and also in collegiate, it's all about those people to people relationships. So, partnerships, yeah, you can sell, you can really get those skills, but you also want to make sure that you're having those interpersonal relationship or interpersonal skills to build those relationships. So, your emotional intelligence, your empathy, really putting yourself in their shoes of who you're talking to, and okay, what can I actually bring to the table and why are they coming to me? And what can I give them in return that'll keep them coming back and set me apart from those around me? So, really focusing on your competitive advantage and why should they come to me versus another program or another company, I think is definitely something that a lot of people in collegiate kind of don't remember to do or kind of overlook.
Absolutely, yeah. And obviously, like I like what you talk about when like it depends on the partnership, right? Obviously, there's ones that are going to go in one direction only, but
Mhm.
when it's able to come and be part of that, I think seeing students interact with our partners and have an experience is really the thing that takes it to the next level. And most students don't forget that stuff. I'm sure
Yeah.
everybody that got a pair of those glasses, they still have them or are using them, or like the that
Mhm.
had an impact on them and could persuade a different purchase down the line or something like that. So I mean,
Yep.
those are huge deals. So really important. From your vantage point, going in through and obviously working with the Aurora series, what are some things that Harrisburg is doing to try to be inclusive and welcoming, with inside their esports community?
Yeah, so I think being a STEM institution, we kind of have an opportunity to really grow that even further than where we are now. So I'm not 100% sure what the percentages are on the breakdown of students,
Yeah.
but we really want to make sure that we're providing opportunities to everybody on campus. We have like myself, people on campus who they don't necessarily want to compete, but they still want to be involved. So we've seen some more students who are from identifying still want to work with the Storm in that Storm student program, and we have a few on our competitive teams. So really, just making sure that everybody on campus knows that we're welcoming and open to everybody, I think is something that is incredibly important. And then also in the community working with partners, like I work with a woman in tech subcommittee for the Technology Council of Central Pennsylvania. And then also, there's a bunch of different organizations that are in the area too, that really want to help support women in tech and in STEM. So really connecting our students, and being like, hey, I saw this scholarship opportunity. I think you'd be great for it. Or, hey, there's a seminar coming up. I think you should attend. Like one of our students last year, she actually was a part of, I think it's the Gen G Challenge Her
Okay. Yeah.
um, uh, program that they did, and she got accepted into it, and she had a phenomenal opportunity. But just being that connector to them to say, "Hey, this thing came up. I don't know if you saw it on your feed, but it's something that you should definitely take a look at." So that way they don't miss those opportunities. I think is incredibly important.
Yeah, presenting them those opportunities and at least putting in another shout out into the world of, hey, there's a thing that is here that you should apply for, right?
Yeah.
What has been something in your journey that has really kind of shifted your perspective on esports from maybe back when you first started? Is something
Mm.
that's changed how you look at things?
I would definitely say most recently it was the Gen G practicum. So I think kind of being someone who went right from graduating college right into a full-time role in esports, I really hadn't kind of taken the time to take a moment for myself and what esports meant to me. So being on the practicum, I really was able to kind of see that, oh, this is how I want esports to be. This is what I want to work towards, and making sure that this space uh, is this way, and this is how things should be. So that was kind of a revelation moment for me, where I was like, this is this is how I want esports to be.
Yeah.
And really, it's kind of, I would say, guided some of the things that we're working on now, and things that we have coming up.
Yeah, I like that when you're experienced and you have a significant moment that can come back and like really start to go, okay, we're gonna try something new here. We're gonna go in a little bit of a different direction. So that's great to hear that you had that experience. Um, Obviously, you've had a hand in kind of different areas of esports. You did some observing, obviously partnerships. You really have kind of had an opportunity to shape your kind of process when it comes to what you're providing for Harrisburg. I would love to know in your journey of that, was there areas that you said, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing here, but this is fun and I would like to learn more, and what have you done to take those steps to evolve that?
Yeah, 100%. The first role I could actually think of was when I became a graphic design intern for the Storm. So I was just doing fan graphics on Twitter for the Storm and for Overwatch League teams at the time, and I didn't know what I was doing. I
Yeah.
was just putting some text on a
Yeah.
graphic on a background, and I was like, "Cool, this looks good." But I think being open to feedback is really one of the things that helped me kind of advance. So like we have a student who just graduated. Her name is Jada. She's phenomenal, awesome graphic designer. But she and I actually connected way before she was a student, way before I was a student, because we were both doing graphic design. She is miles better than me, but being able to get the feedback from folks like her and say, "Hey, I designed this thing. Can you give me the feedback?" But also being able to accept the feedback. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people will put something out there, but they don't necessarily want to take the feedback that's going to come their way.
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly important to realize that it's not personal. This is something that's going to help better you.
Yeah.
So definitely, graphic design was something I didn't know how to do, and now every day I'm using Canva, and working there, in that space to really develop my graphic design skills. Um, trying to think what else. Oh, public speaking. Public speaking was definitely one that I was
Really?
terrified to do and didn't know how to do it. But being a barista, surprisingly, actually, it was really helpful for public speaking skills.
Yeah.
But then also just putting myself out there in different areas to be like, okay, I have to go to this networking event. I'm going to talk to like 3 people and really kind of set goals for myself that I could really be like, all right, I did that. Okay, next time I'll talk to 5 people and really kind of see what I could do next and know that really there was nothing stopping me except myself from hitting those goals.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, finding that thing and go, okay, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna move
Mhm.
past it and accept that, right, is a huge part of what you're doing. I think the other thing too, the feedback part, because there's, especially in this space, there's a lot of graphic designers out there that will come and hey, can I do some work for you?
Mhm.
It Accepting that feedback is very important. I think that's a hard skill to learn and master, but understanding that it is coming from a positive place. Hey, we like what you're doing. These things need to change, though. Like
Mhm.
that is important when you start to go through that. Um,
Yeah, and I definitely didn't know that right away. There
yeah,
were times where I was like, "Oh, I'm terrible. This is the worst thing I've
yeah,
done."
they were
But then
mean
it's
to
like,
me.
take a step back. It's not about you. It's okay.
It's a hard lesson to learn, but a good one, obviously. Um,
Mhm.
what about the leadership side? I mean, obviously, I think there's a lot to learn there, and sometimes you learn by making the wrong choices, right, and
Mhm.
making mistakes, and you have to go, okay, that was not fun. This was clearly the wrong direction to head. What do we do? How do we shift course here to get back on? Obviously, being in a leadership position coming right out of college, obviously, I feel like you had to probably be quick on your feet. What sort of lessons have you learned there?
Yeah, definitely lean on those around you. Because, like you said, coming right out of college and being put into a leadership position, I definitely felt I had moments where I was like, I need an adult. I am not the adult in the room right now. But I need someone else here who, can actually kind of decide which way to go. And asking questions, I think, was another big thing that really went along with kind of leaning on those around me that either have more experience or they know more than me, and asking those questions of like, okay, well, what do we actually do for this, or even reaching out to peers and being like, hey, we have this issue, can you help us with this? Like, let's say we have a student who's not going to class. Like,
Yeah.
hey, we have a student who, they're having some issues with attendance. We've got them set up with student success and everything on campus. How can we help them from the esports side? And, that's definitely something that we've had to learn. And also just something that I've been able to learn a lot from my peers from. And really, especially the student support side is something that I didn't know coming into it, especially being a student so soon or so
Yeah.
quickly previously. Was I was like, "Oh gosh, I was just a student. I don't exactly know how to handle this."
Right.
And, thankfully there's so many fantastic people on campus where I could reach out and be like, "Hey, we need some help," or "I have a question. Can you help me with this?" And everyone has been so supportive and so helpful with everything.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, and this is now like the second time you're talking about going back into your network, into your community, and
Mhm.
saying, "Hey, I don't know what to do here. Help!" Right? And I
Yeah.
think that's an important stepping stone, especially in a leadership position. Is you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to know everything. And I feel like sometimes especially in the esports space, it's all about like, I know all the things, right? And I have to know all the things. And it's not the case, right? You
Mhm.
can lean on your network. You can lean on the people around you, and you're not expected to know everything. So
Yeah.
that's a huge deal, especially for someone coming in right out of college into the program at the college that they were a student at. That gives you another experience, though. I think that's really important is that you had that student experience. The
Yeah.
ins and outs of that. Now it's about learning the university experience, the more of the not that it's a corporate, but you kind of learn that business structure of a university that is not every student sees. So like having those two things kind of come together is really cool, and I loved your answers there.
Yeah.
Obviously, we are running short on time, so I do want to give you the opportunity to share where people can find you, how they can reach out to you, and interact with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Twitter or x.com at Lynzor underscore. Feel free to also connect with me on LinkedIn at Lynzie Wagaman. Be happy to talk anything esports or provide any answers to questions you may have about my journey or anything I can help with. And then also Instagram, also at Lynzor. I kind of see a theme coming along. My gamer tag is at Lynzor. So happy to connect, happy to chat, all things esports.
See, guys, branding is very important. Have it across the board. We keep saying this, right? Oh, that's awesome. So, okay, final question.
Yeah.
What's next for Harrisburg? Obviously, you can't talk about the Hugh Invitational because it's not been unveiled yet. But any other exciting news about moving forward?
Yeah, so next fall, you'll definitely see a lot more content, a lot more things coming out from our program as we get more students involved and working on some awesome projects. And then, of course, we will have the Invitational.
Yeah.
We'll definitely share more details once we get those. But we're super excited to really grow this program and really develop out the Storm and build the Storm community.
Awesome. Well, Lynzie, thank you so much for being here. And the very next episode of Have Game Will Travel is going to be on April 17th with our reschedule with Shipley from Maryville. So that will be another great episode. But thank you for being here. We will see you next time and have a great evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.